Hey, I'm Tim Gordon.
And I'm Roger Pike.
And we are Communication Steroids.
The podcast.
And we're at communicationsteroids.com. You know what I really don't like, Roger?
Well, I know there are a lot of things you really don't like, but tell us what it is in this occasion.
Well, I really don't like it when people are, well, let me see.
Would you be thinking about being unnecessarily vague?
Oh, I hate it when people are vague. You know what else I don't like? Buzzwords.
Jargon
and buzzwords.
Kudzu, acronyms.
Before we get to our little discussion, actually this is part of our discussion, Matt Groening, who's a fellow Oregonian and the creator of The Simpsons, has for a long time, before The Simpsons were ever around, had a comic strip for alternative papers called Life in Hell. And it has changed over the years. 6 months ago, it was called Life is Swell.
Oh, well.
And he's got a couple of characters in there, Akbar, and I'm not sure what the other one is. Today's episode, I just noticed this in the paper yesterday, today, Forbidden Words of 2008, and a lot of the stuff we talk about, the vagueness, the buzzwords, the jargon, falls in here. You ready?
Now, his is political, so we want to state that at the outset, but it does make a point.
But makes great points. Well, some of them are actually not that political. Curveball. Cut and run. Yeah, that would be political. Defensive Marriage Act. Democrat Party. Embolden the terrorists. Enhanced interrogation techniques. These are phrases and words that he thinks should be forbidden next year because they were so overused. Border fence. Faith-based initiatives. Extraordinary rendition. Freedom on the march. Give comfort to the enemy. Global war on terror. Homeland security. I don't recall. I don't remember. I have no memory of that.
I think you can stop right there.
I'm the decider. Well, he made his point. There's obviously a lot of words that get overused. And, I mean, the other thing we wanted to bring up was, I think it's an IBM commercial on TV.
Right.
Where the guy's giving a speech. Before the speech, all the guys get together. And they're playing buzzword bingo. And the guy gets up there and starts talking about all sorts of... adding value, and we have the strategic ubiquity we want to touch base, and so in the midst
think
of all
outside
this,
the box.
Think outside the box. And at one point, one of the girls jumps up or yells, "Bingo!"
Because they've been crossing off.
They've been crossing off the words, the phrases,
until they get one of them got bingo.
So, what is your take on vagueness in speaking in front of people? What's the danger of that?
It is just this: we are about making you better communicators. We are about adding muscle to your message. We are about making sure that you are understood. And as long as language contributes to understanding, it's useful. But there is a point at which language begins to be counterproductive to that end, that it actually obscures meaning rather than enhancing it. And that's what vagueness and buzzwords and acronyms and jargon can do. They can obscure meaning rather than enhancing it.
You start adding cliches in there, like thinking outside of the box, or, gosh, we're really going to push the envelope this quarter. You know what we've got to do? We've got to go back in and reinvent the wheel. I mean, when you start hearing stuff like that, you just kind of roll your eyes, whether you're physically doing that or mentally doing that. And as a speaker, you've really got to do your best to avoid those types of phrases and those types of buzzwords that make people kind of go, oh, well, what did he just mean? It doesn't mean anything, because that's the bottom line. It doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. And even if it means something to you, if it doesn't mean something to your listener, it still obscures meaning. Like, for example, acronyms. You may know exactly what GWOT stands for, but unless your listener understands that's the global war on terror, you've communicated nothing. Yeah. And the same thing is true in business. You may have jargon that's specific to your line of work or to your niche inside that line of work. But unless you are communicating only with your peers, use of that jargon obscures meaning, not enhance it.
Yeah, and if you are speaking to, you know exactly who that audience is. In other words, if you know all 100 people in the audience and you know that they know what that particular piece of jargon is going to mean, yeah, throw it in.
Right.
Because they'll know then that you know what you're talking about. But if you're talking to a more general audience...
Even by a few people.
If there's 10 people in the back that go, what did that GWO, what? Yeah. And so they're thinking about what you just said, and they're not listening to what you're saying next.
And it's not just that. It's also the fact that a lot of people will use phrases specifically because they obscure meaning rather than enhance it. And one of the things that comes to mind, and again, this is
politics.
Political. This is political. But let's think about the phrase enhanced interrogation. What the heck does that mean? It's intended to hide the fact that they're causing pain in order to get information. Whether you think that's a good idea or a bad idea is not the point. The point is, does it accurately describe what's being done? Or does it try and hide what's being done?
And George Carlin years ago had a great bit about the change of words and how certain things have changed and evolved over the years. Back in World War I, it was shell shock. In World War II, it became battle fatigue. In the Vietnam War, it became post-traumatic stress disorder. And so you've got these words that really hide or reinvent or repackage, rename what it is you're talking about. And I suppose there are times when it's good.
When it's necessary.
Is it specific to what you're really talking about? Do people understand? And that really is what it comes down to. What is the understanding on your audience, not you? It's your audience. What is their understanding of what you are saying? That's the bottom line.
Exactly. And I'm gonna tell you right now that unless you're talking to that select group of people and you know exactly who they are and exactly what their involvement is with your line of expertise or with your niche, if you are using jargon, if you are using an acronym, without first having explained what that acronym means, then you are committing a communications error, a communications sin, because you're obscuring meaning, not enhancing it.
This has been a fun thing to talk about, right?
It has.
All right.
Are we already at the end? Because
I
think we could go on for a while.
You're too vague. Thanks again, Roger, for joining us here on Communication Steroids.
This is always a ton of fun.